I was raised in Nebraska, and I had the opportunity to be raised by parents that definitely love the Lord and love the Adventist message. My dad was a minister. In fact, some of my earliest memories as a child growing up are sitting in theology classes with my dad at Union College. I remember he would give me a yellow notepad of paper so I could draw and hopefully not make a scene in the middle of his classes. And so just loved my parents raising me to love the Lord and to have faith in Him. Just had a good time enjoying Adventist education for all of my life, and had a lot of good mentors that kind of have been mentoring me along the way. That said, I never thought I would be a pastor. I never thought I'd be sitting here talking about my call to ministry. I remember as a child thinking it was neat that my dad did pastoral ministry, but I never thought I would, and was never really interested in doing it. In fact, I thought that was the last thing I would do. So when I went to college, I was pursuing a degree in marketing, and at that point didn't actually have a very close relationship with God. But through some turn of events, I just realized that I was kind of living a double life, that while I was attending an Adventist college, Southern Adventist University, I wasn't really connected with Christ. And I just felt this deep urgency to definitely be more secure in where I was standing, to choose one way or the other and kind of stop standing on the middle line. And so I felt really impressed to pray about it and say, God, this is your chance, kind of. If you want to be real in my life, then this is kind of the opportunity to do it. And so I prayed that prayer, and it's amazing how God worked through that prayer request and sent many beautiful mentors into my life, one of them being my wife, who at that time wasn't my wife.
I just love Jesus, and that's why I signed up to work at camp. And I struggled myself with, like, you know, what should I do with my career and calling, and God using my life and my, you know, talents for His glory. And I just kind of always prayed about that. And then just working at camp, meeting this really super fun, cute guy, was like, oh man, that's great. But, you know, he wasn't going to be a pastor, and that was fine. You're like, I don't know, that didn't even really cross my mind, but we just had fun together and we talked about everything. And he went away to be a missionary to Plow the first year of our friendship. And I was like, that's super awesome. I'm gonna miss him, but we stayed in touch.
I went over there probably for not the most noble reasons. I went over there to have a great adventure. In fact, I chose a job where I wouldn't have to talk about Jesus because I wasn't that close to him at the time. So I was an academy history teacher. And I loved investing in young people, and I wanted to make a difference in their lives. And so I had signed up to go on this trip before even being really connected with Christ. But while I was on this trip, or just shortly before I went on this trip, is when I personally connected with Christ on an individual level. And so by the time I went to be a missionary, I actually did love Jesus, which I think is a really important thing for all missionaries. I definitely recommend it. So I showed up at this academy and began teaching there. And this new joy that I felt from having a personal relationship with Jesus, I wanted to share it with the students as well. And so I loved not only teaching history, but to be involved in the spiritual activities on campus and just in the individual lives of the students, spending time with them after school, hanging out in an alleyway by the school, playing guitar, and just talking about life with them and trying to give them the hope that I had found in a relationship with Christ. And so it was around that time when I was having to make the decision what I was going to do when I came back to the United States after my year of mission service. And some people started suggesting that I should pursue ministry. It hadn't been something that I'd really thought of at the time, but I started praying about it very sincerely. And over a process of about 3 to 4 months, I really felt compelled and called into ministry. There was one time in particular I can remember sitting at the pastor's house that was there in Palau. He had moved back to the States, so it was just an empty house, but there was a balcony. And I remember going and doing some devotional time and journaling on the back of this balcony and looking out across the Pacific Ocean and some of the islands there. Just a beautiful setting. And I just felt this overwhelming presence and this call to say there's nothing better you could do with your life than help people fall in love with Jesus. And so the call I received wasn't necessarily to a specific occupation. It wasn't to be just a pastor per se, but it was a call to use my time and talents here on earth to further the kingdom of God. And so that led to me, after some counseling from different people, to pursue a theology degree at Southern Adventist University, which I did and enjoyed, and the rest has kind of just fallen into place.
Now it's really cool that we can be in ministry together, and I'm just really super thankful and grateful, and God is so good in how He has led our relationship and how He has shown us on a personal level how His grace is sufficient for us, and His power is made perfect in weakness. And we make mistakes, and we realize more and more that we need Jesus, and we're thankful for His grace in our relationship and grace in our lives and our future.
What's happening today is an affirmation of who I sense God calling me to be. It's a process that we've been on for a while here, just following God's leading in our life. God can lead people in multiple directions, and the most important thing is that we're found faithful going where He calls us. I feel like up to this point, we've gone where God has called us. And so this is kind of an affirmation of that, and just an affirmation from both our local community here and from a broader community that we're following God's call in our life. And so we really appreciate everyone who's invested in us, who's mentoring us both in our broader community and right here in our local congregations, because you guys are mentoring us as well. And we just thank you so much for the privilege of being able to do ministry with you.